The Oklahoma City Thunder this year have definitely been one of the biggest surprises of the NBA season. Currently, they sit with a record of 37-23 and are 6th in the Western Conference. They have an offensive rating of 101.6, which is 13th in the league, and a defensive rating that is top 10 in the league of 109.2. This is a team that offensively does not have a superstar. Actually, even defensively, they don't have a superstar. They don't have a superstar in general, and you could even make the valid argument that they don't even have a star, because even though Chris Paul was an all-star, some people do question the validity of that all-star selection, even though I personally don't, but you will have those people there. And I think that when you look at this team as a whole, a lot of players have stepped up, and even Billy Donovan, who I thought should have been fired a few years ago, has done a lot of good things with this team. He has instilled in them that they don't have to do too much, and they don't have to force things that they realistically don't need to be forcing. And not only has it helped them secure some W's, but it's helped them secure a playoff berth, because even though the playoffs have not started yet, we're not at the end of the season, I think that we can all comfortably say that we expect to see the Oklahoma City Thunder come postseason time. But before we get into this video, make sure you hit that subscribe button and that bell to be notified after each and every single video that I post. And if you are not following me on Twitter, make sure you follow me on Twitter. All of the links for my social media are in the description box. But without further ado, let's get into the Oklahoma City Thunder team. Looking at this Oklahoma City Thunder team, a lot of players on this team have stepped up in big ways, whether it's the role players like Nerlens Noel, Diallo, Nader, or even Mike Muscala, who's shooting around 36% from 3 and providing some spacing. But despite all of the successes of the other bench players, and they definitely do have some value, I think the best bench player on this team has not only had such a significant impact that he could win the Sixth Man of the Year, but has had such a great impact on this team that some people thought he should have been an all-star, and yes, that is Dennis Schroeder. Dennis Schroeder this year has been sensational for the Oklahoma City Thunder. This season he's averaging 19 points, as well as around 4 assists and 4 rebounds, while shooting 47% from the field and also 38% from 3, as well as 85% from the free throw line. I mean, let's be real here. Dennis Schroeder, even though he's been relatively decent during his career, especially during his time in Atlanta in that playoff series against John Wall, his time in Oklahoma to me has been relatively disappointing, because though he can put up his numbers, he had certain flaws in his game that were just so glaring to the point that it obviously needed to be fixed. And this season he's done that, because though defensively he isn't that good, and he's never been that good, he has looked at least a little bit better. But the main improvement in his game has to be the three-point shot, because throughout his entire career up until this season, this is a guy that was such a streaky three-point shooter that he has never even shot league average since his second year in the NBA, where he was attempting less than 2 threes a game. And if we're being honest here, this is not just the best year that he's had in Oklahoma City, but this is probably the best year that he's had throughout his entire career. And I think a big reason has to do with the improvement from 3. He went from shooting 34% from 3 last season on less than 5 attempts to shooting 38% from 3 this year on well over 5 attempts a game. So I definitely think his improvement from 3, along with a little bit more consistency on the offensive side of the ball, because he is shooting 47% from the field in comparison to 41% last year, has definitely helped his case not only as the sixth man, but just as one of the better players in the NBA. But not only Dennis Schroeder has been a big contribution, players like Danilo Gallinari and Steven Adams, you always know what you're going to get out of those guys. Hustle and effort on the boards from Steven Adams, as well as a few offensive moves here or there. And then in the case of Danilo Gallinari, this is a guy that can go out there, create his own shot, really underrated passer, can rebound exceptional, and can do it all while being very efficient, as he's shown this year, averaging 19 points on 44% from the field, 41% from 3, while having 7 attempts a game, and also shooting around 90% from the free throw line. But the two main people that I want to highlight on this team are Chris Paul and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, because those two guys have really led this team and are teetering, if they're not already, on stardom in the NBA. Now I know some people are going to be saying, hey, Chris Paul has always been a star, but if we're being real, a lot of people, or at least the public perception of Chris Paul going into this season, is that he's a little bit washed and he's probably going to suffer from some injuries. But not only has he proved all of us wrong by his play on the court, but he's done it all while being healthy, playing 59 out of the available 60 games so far for the Oklahoma City Thunder, and while doing so averaging 18 points, 7 assists, 5 rebounds, as well as 2 steals on 48% shooting from the field, 35 to 36% from 3, and around 89% from the free throw line. So yeah, when it comes to Chris Paul's ability and if he still got it, so far it looks like he does, and defensively he's still really good and one of the better perimeter defenders at the point guard position. And I think that when you look at Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, he has benefited from Chris Paul, because one of the weaknesses in Shai's game is his lack of facilitating, or at least he hasn't proven that he can facilitate at a high enough level to be the primary ball handler on a team. And I think that having Chris Paul there who can facilitate has helped him tremendously, not just in terms of his development, but also has helped his performance in terms of his scoring ability, because it frees up some open looks that he could get, whether from the three-point line or from the field in general. And I think that that has really helped his efficiency, because over the past month, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has been ridiculously efficient, not just from the field, but also from 3, because in the month of February, this is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's numbers: 19 points, around 6 to 7 rebounds, as well as 4 assists, while shooting nearly 50% from the field, 40 to 41% from 3, and 71% from the free throw line. So yeah, when it comes to Chris Paul, even though they could benefit from trading him, I would hesitate on trading him this year, because I would really love to see how they're going to finish off the season and play in the playoffs with a duo of Chris Paul and Shai in the backcourt, because it is very obvious that Shai is benefiting off of having Chris Paul, because some of the weaknesses in his game, whether it's facilitating or defending, even though he's a solid defender, but he's not an elite one like Chris Paul can more than make up for a lot of those negatives. I mean, honestly, that is a perfect thing that you want in a backcourt: 2 players that complement each other's games, whether it's James Harden and Russ or Steph and Clay. I mean, we see it all the time, and I think that Shai and Chris Paul so far this season have complemented that philosophy very, very well. Now, honestly, all roads do probably lead to them trading Chris Paul, but as of now, I think the Oklahoma City Thunder are very happy with what they have in Shai and CP3, because it is helping Shai's development on this team. And let's not forget that Shai was the big piece of the Paul George trade to the Clippers, because the Clippers did not want to let go of Shai, but obviously they had to, and to get a player like Paul George to pair with Kawhi Leonard. And looking at the Oklahoma City Thunder, other than the draft picks, I mean, Shai was the guy that they got, as well as Gallinari, but let's be real, he is an expiring contract. I don't expect him to stay on the team long term, but when you look at Shai Gilgeous' potential, you can see it every single time he steps on the court. And I have to give the Oklahoma City Thunder a huge plus for acquiring him and those boatload of draft picks from the Clippers, because if we're being honest here, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has the potential to be one of the top 10 players at his position, whatever position he's going to play eventually, whether it's the point when Chris Paul's traded or when he leaves, or it's the shooting guard, because he is a combo guard. And in a league where players like Luka and Zion are taking over, I think his height and his skill are perfect for the modern NBA. This is a combo guard that can do a little bit of everything. Though his facilitating does need some work, there is some promise. Though his scoring is not the best, he's not the greatest shooter, he doesn't even attempt that many threes, he's still relatively solid and has a lot of room to improve. He's a very capable rebounder, and also defensively he's really solid on that end of the ball, and I could definitely see him being an all-NBA defender one day, because he can put some clamps on that perimeter. If you really watch the OKC games, he does his thing. But in conclusion, you guys, shout out to the Oklahoma City Thunder front office. Shout out to Sam Presti, because I used to get on his ass a lot, especially during that Carmelo, PG, Russ era, because he was making a lot of financial decisions that I honestly just did not understand. But when you look at how they've bounced back from that time to now, I think they have bounced back very good. They have the draft picks, they have good solid young players, they have expiring contracts such as Danilo Gallinari that are going to be off of the books in the offseason. They have some tradable assets. If Chris Chris Paul keeps hooping, they could trade him during the offseason and get a haul for him. Maybe not a haul, that might be a little bit of a stretch, but they could get some solid pieces. And in terms of how far they're going to go this year, I don't see them getting out of the first round, but if they can get a favorable matchup against a team such as the Jazz or the Nuggets or maybe even the Rockets or Mavs, I definitely could see them upsetting a team in the first round or at least having a hard-fought 7-game series. But that concludes this video, you guys. Make sure you drop a like down below. Also comment your opinions on the Oklahoma City Thunder. How great do you think they've been this season? What do you think their ceiling is going into the playoffs? And how great do y'all think they're going to be moving forward in this rebuilding process? Y'all let me know everything down below in the comment section. Also, you guys, hit the subscribe button and the bell. Follow me on Twitter, Instagram. All social media links are in the description box. Y'all have a great day. I'm out. Peace.